Hello everybody, it is me. I am back for the first real video on the revamp, or focus change, whatever you want to call it. This week, this video is going to focus on esports. Specifically, how my view on esports has changed and why I think my love for, American football and basketball, baseball, lacrosse, all these kinds of sports that you think of when you think of the traditional sports, why I think my love for those things has allowed me to appreciate esports more, specifically with Overwatch. So I'm going to start this story back in August of 2017, specifically August 14th, 2017, when I made one tweet. Unpopular opinion, esports aren't entertaining. That was the tweet, and to this day, I still think that I agree with that tweet, specifically when I put myself in the mindset that I was then. And it's not that I agree now that esports aren't entertaining. I agree now that the person who tweeted that didn't have the grasp on esports that I do now. What do I mean by that? Well, when I made that tweet, when I thought of esports, I thought of League and Dota, which are games I don't play, I don't care much for, and I think they're just kind of, they're not my style of game. I thought of Smash, which was the one that I was the most following. It's the one I followed the most. It's the one I was technically the most involved in. It was the one that I followed things the most, which even still didn't follow them very much because I didn't really find it that enjoyable. I knew there was an esports scene for Overwatch, but I wasn't sure how big it was. I knew there was an esports scene for Counter-Strike that I was pretty sure was pretty big, but I didn't know how big it was until the way I do now. Call of Duty had an esports scene. I wasn't sure if that was still a really prominent thing. I didn't understand esports. I didn't follow esports the way I do now. I didn't just look at them the way I do now, where I know what they are and I know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at an esport. And I know how to dissect one. I know how to enjoy it more than I did before. So we can now fast forward to a couple months after I made that tweet, probably like October, November, maybe even December. I don't remember exactly when it was, but actually, it definitely wasn't December. It was October or November, probably. I was with friends at college, and we were watching, I believe it was League Worlds. They put it on because they were all big fans of it. They all really like League, and I just watched it with them because I had nothing else to do. And I was like, you know what? I kind of understand this, right? I'm starting to pick up on what's happening in a way. I'm not picking up on the individual, really small strategies that they're employing to kind of succeed and to win, but I'm enjoying what's happening, and I'm able to pick up on who's doing well and all that kind of stuff, which I never really was with Smash. Smash is just such a fast-moving game, and I just never really found I was fully following what was happening. So I'm watching League, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I kind of get it. I kind of see what's happening. I have an understanding. Even though I don't understand this game, I can tell who's doing well. I can tell what's happening, and I think it's easy to follow along with right now, more so than before. So now I flash forward again to January of 2018, where now I love esports because of one thing in particular, and that is the Overwatch League. I love the Overwatch League. I think it's such a well done thing. I think it's really entertaining for me because I'm a big fan of Overwatch. But also because I think it's a very, very, very well designed league in general, right? And it's very reminiscent of your major sports franchises and sports leagues in the world. Specifically America, which is what I'm most knowledgeable of, but I look at it and I think, this is very reminiscent of your NFL, your MLB, right? Your NBA. It's a similar style in terms of the way it's presented, right? It's not like Smash, which Smash is most reminiscent of golf by format in terms of the way the whole thing's structured. You have your big tournaments throughout the year, right? Your Apex, your Super Smash Con. I know there's some other ones that I'm just Evo. The other, you like those big tournaments every once in a while. But then you also have tournaments all the time that are just smaller and that people just go to because they enjoy it and they want to have fun and all that other stuff. But there's always a big tournament, right? Every couple months there's usually a big tournament, right? So it's that whole thing of like that's not my style, right? I don't like golf, right? Where golf you have the Masters, you have the PGA Championship, you have the U.S. Open, you have the British Open, you have these major tournaments every once in a while. But then you also have tournaments pretty much every weekend that are smaller, but people still go to because that's their livelihood and they play golf and that's just what they enjoy, so they go to play. But not everyone's going to go to play at this one random tournament in Phoenix, Arizona, right? For example, like I'm not saying there is one in Phoenix, Arizona, but like they're not going to all go to this one tournament there because, well, one they might say, well, I'm training for this major tournament because I want to do well, so I'm not going to go and play at this tournament because it will take away from my training and my practice, and that's why I'm not going to go. So you don't see Hungry Box or Mewtwo King at every single tournament, right? They'll go to your major tournaments because those are the ones that you get more money from, but it's not my style, right? I like team-based sports. I like organized sports. I like ones that I feel like even though I know there's kind of an organized body for golf, right? It's the PGA, obviously. It just doesn't feel like it's that great. You follow a specific athlete and not a specific team, and to me that's just like weird, right? That's just not what I like. And it's the same way that Smash works. You say, oh, I really like Plup, or I really like Mewtwo King, or I really like Armada, right? And to me, that's just like not the way to go because it's all based on, Smash is a little bit different because it's like, this person plays, this character that I really, really like. Say you're a big Hungry Box fan because you really like playing Jigglypuff, and you're like, this guy's really good and he plays Jigglypuff, like that's really cool, so I'm gonna support Hungry Box, right? Like that's one thing, but it's just that to me is a weird concept. I've always been more caring about teams and the places that they represent more than anything else. And obviously, right, if someone is from your hometown that is a golfer, you're gonna be like, yeah, this dude's from my hometown. Like we grew up with this guy. Of course we like him. That's never an experience I've had with a sport, so obviously I can't speak for everybody, but this is a video about me anyway, so I guess that doesn't really matter. So Overwatch changed my kind of perception on esports because I understand now how it can be different. Now I know a lot of people are very skeptical of doing this format that Overwatch League does, where you have teams actually represent places, right, in the real world, rather than just being like, this is Team Optics Overwatch team. It's saying, yeah, this is Team Optics Overwatch team, but they're the Houston Outlaws, right? It's owned by Optic, but they go by the Houston Outlaws, so they represent a place, and there's a community there. Now, obviously, when it comes to esports, it's obviously gonna be a little bit different because I have a friend who is a big fan of Cloud9, so he's a fan of London. Because that's Cloud9's Overwatch League team is the London team because they're a London-based or UK-based organization. So of course his team that he supports, even though he's not from that area, he's not from the UK, he's from Florida, but he likes Cloud9, so he's a fan of London Spitfire. It's just the way it works, right? That's just the way it works for some people because esports works that way. But I like the fact that Overwatch League is like, yeah, you know what we're going to do? We are going to have teams that represent locations and places, and it's going to help us build a community. And it's going to help us, if you want to go to this place, or you want to find people that, are like you, that like this esport, and you can create a community around it. And I know that they're starting to build up the Overwatch League in the fact where you have to kind of have a place in the city or whatever that you represent. There's got to be like a location that you can go and watch, or or the teams go and play. I don't know exactly what's going to work. I think it's a really weird concept, honestly, that if it is that way. I wonder how it would work. Part of me thinks like if they do it where it's like each team builds like an arena and they kind of play at that arena, you're going to run into some issues with like Shanghai and Seoul. If or London, right? If you play Seoul and then the next you get to play like the New York Excelsior, I'd hope they would schedule it to the point where it's not an issue. If you're traveling across the country and like halfway across the world just to get to games like that, I'd hope they would plan around that kind of stuff. But I think that it's going to be fun to watch where this all grows and see where it starts to evolve into, because it's going to be really, really crazy. And it's going to be really, really fun. And it's something that I've started to understand more and follow more because I like the format better. And I like esports better in general now because I like the format that they are in. Esports have evolved over the past, what, like, a long time. Like 18 years, 19 years they've been around, and they've just been growing and evolving and constantly changing. And I think it's awesome to see them grow and change and evolve. It really is like an awesome thing to see, and it's cool to see the communities that they've built up. I went to this place called Xanadu. It's in Maryland. I went this past week, and it's a really cool place. It's mainly Smash focused. That's like the main focus there because there's a Smash tournament there. But they also have a bunch of just gaming PCs set up, and you can just pull up Overwatch, or you can pull up Fortnite, or you can pull up League of Legends. You just play a game, right? You sit down and you play some other games if you want, and you can just hang out there. You can just go there when it opens up and leave when it closes, and just hang out with people that are there. And that is, to me, something that esports has been able to do. Is that esports has been able to kind of create these communities of people who just play games and they want to play them competitively, and now you can start to kind of build up communities for it. And once you really start to understand what esports are and what they're doing and the impact they're having, it really can change your perspective on things that are happening. So just a little bit of food for thought there on some stuff that I've been finding with esports. But I think from the point of view of someone who's a fan of professional sports, um, I always kind of had this weird notion in my mind because obviously I play video games a lot, but I was always like, esports to me just feel weird and strange, and I just don't think it works. There's been stuff like thoughts about like esports in the Olympics. I would hope they'd just do them separately. Honestly, if they were gonna have like Olympics for esports, I'd hope they would just have like an esports Olympics because I think it would just work better. Because there's so many, and like where would you put it? Like, would you put it in the summer? Would you put it in the winter? Would you split them up? Would you put like one in the summer, one in the winter? Which just makes no sense because it doesn't matter where you put it. Obviously, I think it makes more sense just to have its own because then you can have a much more centralized kind of location, and all right, you can host them in a bunch of different areas that I think would be really, really cool and really, really fun. So I'm gonna end this video before I get too much more into just kind of spouting a bunch of stuff. But I do really think that there's a lot of stuff that I've understood now, and that my perspective has changed just because I gave it a little bit more time. So all I'm asking, if you're someone who doesn't really love esports, just give it a little bit more time, right? Just start to understand it. Find the game that you really love, and then look into if it has an esports scene. And if it does, start doing research on it. Start watching streams of it. Start watching videos from it, on YouTube or whatever, and you'll find, hopefully, that there is something about that game with its esports scene that you enjoy. If you can find a community of people to enjoy it with, in person or online, do that as well, because it'll start to really make everything feel so much more connected, and you'll start to feel closer with the people who you are with in this community, and it's really, really cool. And it's one of the things that I've really found that I love about esports, because you can talk about it with people from around the world because it is so much more global than a lot of sports things are, right? Most professional sports that I follow are American sports, and I know obviously like the English Premier League for soccer is crazy. That's got worldwide fans, but you know, it's not as crazy in terms of like worldwide fan bases as something like baseball. That's American, right? If I'm following my team, most of the people who follow that team are people who are in America, in the state that team is from, and that's really all you're gonna get. So I think that esports are much more global. Maybe having them represent specific places kind of hurts that globalness of it because teams are rooting, or people are rooting for teams that represent a place rather than just an organization. But I like it. I think it works. It works for me better. So that's really all I can say about that. But I'm going to end this off here. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. It helps out a lot. But that is all. I hope that everyone has a nice day, a nice long weekend this weekend, even though it's ending today. Hope you had a nice long weekend, and I will see every single one of you on Wednesday. So until then, peace out.